If you ask any of us a satsang, what kind of meditation we do, including Ram Dass, invariably that we say of vipassana, or mindfulness and loving kindness, which we learned together in 10-day retreats in India in the old days under Goenkaji and other teachers, as mentioned. And the basic teachings of Buddha, which is that, and of course this is something to question or find out for yourself if it's not true, that everything, all conditioned things, are impermanent. Because they're impermanent, they're unreliable or laden with dissatisfactoriness or suffering in the long term. And because impermanent and interconnected, there's no separate permanent self. So impermanence, dissatisfactoriness, and no separate self or interdependence are the three characteristics taught by Buddha to help free us from clinging to things that can't satisfy us in the long run. So we all found, and we were surprised to find, that actually impermanence and this kind of dour statement about life, suffering, we didn't want to hear that. We were young hippies. We were looking for Zorba the Buddha, Viva la Dharma, joyful Sangha, celebrate, not celebrate, and so forth. Did I say that or just think it? Anyway, but we found through inner work and contemplative practice, including meditation, Julie, observing the impermanence in our body and mind and of course, outer world also, that it was very freeing or even happy-making to be able to relax a little bit about our worries and anxieties and control freakism, because things were changing and we were not in control. And that's one of the great messages or therapies or reliefs of experiencing for oneself the truth of impermanence and transience. Not just the bad news that nothing stays, but the good news that everything is in flux and changeable and renewing, and life and death isn't the end, and life and it's a cycle, the seasons, and we can see it in ourselves. And that we are heavily conditioned, but we can also recondition and decondition, because everything is changing. There's no fixed permanentness. Of course, we need to check into this ourselves. So this was a great revelation to us. And I want to emphasize that because, again, it is the main teaching of Theravadan Buddhism, especially of the mindfulness tradition that is so much coming to popular in the West today, impermanence. The farm in western Massachusetts from which our satsang almost sprang or landed, or from which the Insight Meditation Centers and movements sprang, it's called Impermanence Farm, Anicca Farm. That's how important it is to all of us. But somehow...
It's been there a long time.
Yeah,
now.
it's been there for 45 years, so that's the good news. How old we've become, not so good news, but happy. So when Buddha says, according to Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Vietnamese Zen master, life is full, the unenlightened life, worldly life is full of challenges, of suffering. Still, we can embrace the suffering joyfully, recognizing this too shall pass. And it's not our fault. And this too shall pass. And we can let go and let be and realize great peace, nirvanic peace, in things just as they are. Not complacence, but great peace beyond the dichotomies of noise and quiet, or stillness and movement. Nirvanic peace, here and now. So that's called the three marks of existence: impermanence, dissatisfactoriness or suffering because of that great flux and change and unreliability of all things, and no separate self because all interdependent, relational, subjective, not solid, not fixed. Right. So many of us, then we, of course, we're Maharaji's disciples. So as I said yesterday, I'd probably be quite a dried up Buddhist scholar and translator. I mean, even more than I am, if it hadn't been for Maharaji opening my heart and teaching me to sing. So sing out, friends. Viva la Dharma and Jaya Maharaj. Thank you.
Ram Dass, you have seen a lot of I don't. You remember in India there was a brand of cigarettes called Passing Show. So you've seen a lot of that go by, and your body has certainly gone through a lot of suffering. So I would like ask you to unpack that sense of non-self, because you speak of the soul so much. And that's a different level of self, I think, that the way I understand it from you. Do you want to talk about soul a little in relation to Buddhism? I love this.
When you get old, change is happening. Change is in your memory, in your body, in your family and friends. This year, my oldest friend, died. Stephen Levine. He was younger than me. The world is different without Stephen. The world is different, but my relationship to Stephen is the same. Stephen and I have a soul relationship. And the souls are not in time. We go on and on and on and on and on and on. Pass through soul planes, pass through spiritual planes, pass through incarnations in earth plane. Stephen is with me. This is because we loved one another. The love between two souls. A woman came to me. Her husband had died. She was wanting contact with her husband. And I said to her, "You have work to do until you identify with your soul. Identify with your spiritual self. Then your loving thoughts will bring your husband. He is loving you as a soul. And she came to me a few days later. You were right. You're right. It was the love that they had between the two of them. The love that's stable and unconditional. She didn't love him because he was her husband. She loved him as a fellow soul. What else you want?
Well, that should take care of this talk. Part of what you said comes to seeing the identity that is considered non-self from a deeper place within the incarnation.
This soul business, it's driving me up the wall.
Driving who up the wall?
Deep down, I'm a Buddhist. Souls, what the hell are they? A guy came to me. He said, "You're a guy who talks to your dead guru, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's your imagination." I said, "Yeah." In my previous life, I was a social scientist. And now I live in my heart.
Heart cave?
My heart and my imagination.
Well, you talk about soul, which I'm going to get rid of for now. But I'm going to get rid of soul for now. But
Okay.
let's go back to, just for a moment before we leave this part of it, to what you often call witnessing.
Yes.
Witnessing the incarnation, which
Yeah.
is kind of a different level than the ego self as a social scientist.
Well, when you witness your incarnation, when you witness your mind, this is bad to say, but the witness is the soul. This is a cute little way to get into the soul, not the soul. You think something that isn't going to get you to God. like I'm a moron, something like that, or I don't have love, or anything like that. And you identify with your thoughts, and then identify with the thought. I do it this way. I say, this feels uncomfortable, or I don't like this person, something like that. I say, this feels very weird. And then, how did I get into this place? See, that's the key. How do I get into this place? And I'll go down to the witness and I'll find out. Because the witness has a perspective of past and future and culture and all that stuff. And your ego and its wants and stuff like that. I answered the question, what the hell did I do there? What am I doing here? So when I get to the witness, the witnessing all of the perspective of all. See, that thought came from the soul's karma. The soul needs the ego to work out its karma. You are now working out your karma, identifying with these bodies and psychological things. And then I do one thing. Two things. I look at that thought, that miserable thought, and I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, I used to say, I love it to death. But that didn't work because the ego, the soul, loves things. It doesn't love them to death. And then I'm in the witness. My identification is with the witness. I'm very perspective, way like that. Perspective. You know, we are in this predicament, in these bodies. It's lessons. It's a lesson. I took birth in a family that was power-oriented. Everyone is power-oriented. My brother's was a track star and an organist that played this huge organ. Those are two brothers. My mother, she's got an incarnation as a Jewish mother. And she wanted to have a family that a Jewish mother would be proud of. And she used love for her power, so that I grew up not fully getting love. But power-oriented. And then came psychedelics. Tim Leary moved in next door. And I thought that my heart was something I didn't know anything about. But then I learned. And then by path leading to psychedelics, Maharaji loved me. He didn't want any conditions. He loved me. He loved all the other in the satsang. We all got loved. And I felt what love was all about. And my motivation changed. Power to love. And then Larry Brilliant, one of our satsang, he's a doctor in Berkeley, or Marin, I guess. And he said, when I sat right in front of Maharaji, I knew he was a saint, and I knew he loved everybody. But when I sat there, I loved everybody. It was catchy. And I caught it from Maharaji. I loved everybody. I love everybody. It's my nature. the nature of my soul. The soul loves everybody. The soul is in my imagination. Because I don't see it, I don't smell it, I don't taste it, I don't hear it, but I know it's there, or I am there. And that is my imagination. You didn't expect that.
I don't expect anything. But from the Tibetan perspective, the subtlety of what transmigrates, whatever you want to call it, because you have all these tulkus, you know, the 17th Karmapa.
You're talking about rebirth.
Reincarnation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What reincarnates?
The same thing that animates us now. The stream
Which
of being.
sounds suspiciously
Doesn't
like
it?
what he's talking
It
about.
does. It does. This is a slippery matter.
It's a slippery matter.
Slippery matter. When we realize or awaken to who continues from our own birth until death, we'll understand exactly what continues from death on. But that's the matter of awakening or enlightenment or self-realization.
In this incarnation.
In this incarnation. And then, as you mentioned, incarnate lamas or tulkus like the Dalai Lama that theoretically have continued on, you know, their mission lifetime to lifetime.
Theoretically?
They are recognized as doing so.
Yeah.
Then they can consciously direct their stream of being, just like masterful individuals among us can direct their path in life, while other people just wander lost much of the time. Therefore, we work on this notion of self-realization, freedom, and mastery, and understanding karmic cause and effect, and so on, so we can get our hands on the rudder of our boat, so we can get our hands on the steering wheel of our car, and not just this rear view mirror, and think that that's steering something.
Well, there's this funny issue between, you know, getting your hands on the wheel and surrendering to that other level of,
Yes.
you know, what might be called the guru or the Tao or
Right. Well,
God.
that's a great subject. The Buddhists have a way of discussing it. There's two parts of Buddhism as we think of it. One is self-power, your own efforts, as Buddha said, work out your enlightenment with diligence. Don't depend on a higher being or someone else. And the other part is other power, where you recognize that you can't do it all and we're interrelated, you ask for help or you surrender. You do the best you can and let go also, and whatever happens, happens. As we talked about yesterday from the Bhagavad Gita, etc. Doing your duty and not being attached to the fruits of actions. So there's a balance, as always. As I mentioned yesterday, I think Buddha's greatest teaching is the middle way, not all or nothing. So there's a balance between doing and being, effort and effortless. The Bodhisattva intention to illumine or liberate the world and relieve suffering, and the great acceptance of things as they are at the same time. If our heart and mind's big enough to include that contradiction of doing and being, then we find peace and fulfillment every step of the way. Not waiting until some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That every step of the way is the great way, not looking forward to a pot of gold later.
We're
As
at the
Ram
end
Dass-
of the rainbow.
Rainbow's a circle, as you know, if seen from above, the bigger picture. No pot of gold, except in people's imagination, which is a marvelous thing that motivates us to seek to get from here to there, even though the real journey is from here to here. As the
That would be
Master
the
was saying
guru in his
yesterday.
imagination.
Yes, viva la imagination.
That would be the guru in your imagination.
The guru, and I imagine the guru is my imagination.
And that's really something, ain't it? It works for us.
It works. It works. And he works like Larry. I find his presence in my life keeps my heart wide open. And I love you. I love you. I love every one of you as a soul. As a soul. I'm in a sea of love. And I keep him in my imagination. And he keeps me in my soul because he mirrors my soul. Because he is a soul.
When Maharaji says that about everything passes away except love of God,
Yeah.
do you feel that's that same place that you're seeing souls from, that Maharaji saw us from where he was? That certainly that feeling around him was that you felt you were loved more than anyone had ever loved you,
Yeah.
and then you realized that everyone around you was feeling the same thing.
That's he as a mirror of your soul. And he's a mirror for my soul. As long as I'm in my soul, I love everything. And you follow that path. Imagine Maharaji. He's a wonderful traveling companion.
When you said that about Stephen, that the tie between you is your love, the sense of that is that love transcends death. Do you want to speak about that a little further?
That husband and wife, that's the love that transcends the death. And Stephen and I, love that transcends death. It's because if you love in souls don't die. Or they don't get born. All they do is jump into an incarnation. And then jump out of it. Stephen jumped out of this incarnation, but he's still a soul. Our souls are infinite. You are infinite. You specifically, you are infinite. Like people around me want to celebrate my birthday. Far out. The birthday of my leg. Nice. 83. My old Ford. I'm infinite. How are we going to celebrate my birthday? Celebrate my birthday is dive deep in the moment. In any moment is infinite. A moment is infinite. Just this moment.
Maharaji said something else about love that may be a good bridge here, which is that all love is pure.
Yeah.
Which, from the standpoint of the soul working itself out, working out its karma through the incarnation, that puts love in a kind of special category from other emotions that we all experience, like lust, greed, envy, all that stuff, fear. But love
is
different.
is not an emotion. You know, we have the heart, in the heart center, we have the heart, boom, 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 that heart. Then the emotional heart. Oh, my heart. The emotional heart. Then we have the spiritual heart. We deal with the spiritual heart. You know, in emotions, the opposite of love is hate. That's the emotions. That's the psychology. This love, spiritual love, unconditional. It's infinite. You're infinite. See that? See? Oh, I can't.
That's not what he said, though.
What?
He said all love is pure.
I know. If people make love, that love is same love.
Yeah.
Why don't you two say anything?
I'm inhibiting what I was going to say, so I won't. Thank you. Bear with me. So I'm a little new to this conversation. I don't know what Maharaji meant or said that all love is pure. But you said in response, unlike lust and anger and other emotions, meaning not pure. So from the tantric point of view, the Vajrayana point of view, you
They're all
mentioned,
pure.
yeah, from the non-dual mystical point of view, they're all pure. Every arising is pure in the moment. We make it into a string of moments, and then we get, the string effect, and we string ourselves up. We get hung up on it. We get a chain of discursive thinking. But in the moment, anger is just an energy or an emotional arising. It's a bubble, a thought arises, a lust, whatever you said. So maybe Maharaji meant everything is pure. It's all love. From the bigger perspective, not just human love, like I love you, which perhaps anger doesn't look like that. But that everything is pure. And isn't that the way he moved? Isn't that how Maharaji rolls?
He said it's all perfect.
So that's what we're talking about, the great perfection beyond the duality of perfect and imperfect. So just calling out, there's also that side of things, the oneness,
Yeah,
the beyondness,
the non-dual.
the non-dual, the
side.
mystical. Everything is pure.
True.
And you are, and we are, and it is. What did Allen Ginsberg sing? Holy, 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 holy. It's all holy, holy, holy. But even that posits an unholy. So that's why we talk about the great perfection, beyond perfect and imperfect, the dichotomies of our dualistic intellect. So that's the Maharaji that I love, that can remind me like a mirror of my own true or pure nature, which is not my only, which is yours, which opens up the field of possibility of treating everybody like that, like Dr. Larry said. The miracle wasn't just that Maharaji loved everyone. It was that Larry, loved everyone.
Yeah.
That's a real miracle when Jeffrey Miller, loves everyone as they are, not just because they do what I like, which is what I too learned at home. But at home with Maharaji, it's the big tent. It's the big tent. Here we are.
The great way
The great way.
is open to those who have no preferences.
My roommate. 4 o'clock in the morning this morning, he's telling me about what we're going to talk about today. Am I exaggerating? 4 o'clock. I mean, that's not very loving.
He was already up. Do we have time? Do you want to do questions and answers?
Yeah.
Do we have time for that? No. It's lunchtime?
It says in the good book, love is greater than death. Amen. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Even when we lose people, we may lose our child, our best friend, even we may die. But the fill in the blank, we're using the word love, does not die. Unborn and undying, great perfection, true nature.
True nature.
Luminous being. Loving awareness, as you call it.
I call it soul.
He means the one.
It's time for some soul food.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Baba Ram Das.
Thank you. Tremendous.